Hello and welcome. Today we are in the new Tier 9 German battleship, the Pommern. She is available right now, as I mentioned yesterday, in the armory for 228k coal. And she is essentially a Friedrich der Grosse hull. Like I mentioned, she has the same secondaries as the Friedrich der Grosse, and as far as I can tell, the same armor. She goes about 1 knot faster, has about the same concealment, and about the same maneuverability. Essentially, as I mentioned, she has the hull of a Friedrich der Grosse. She has 12 guns that are Tirpitz or Bismarck guns, but she has a 33-second reload instead of a 26-second reload. As a result, her DPM, as in damage per minute, is about 20% higher than a Bismarck or Tirpitz. You would expect it to be much higher due to having 50% more guns, but that's not the case. You also have to keep in mind though that Pommern is less accurate. She has a worse sigma. You see, the dispersion value might tell you how big the circle is that the shells can fall in, or ellipse. However, sigma is what determines how much in the middle of that ellipse or circle the shells are going to drop. So a very high sigma will mean that all of your shells will drop into the middle of the circle regardless how big it is, whereas a very low sigma will mean that they're gonna be all over the the circle itself, which means that the guns of a Pommern act kinda like a shotgun. They go basically everywhere in it, which does mean that you don't have to be anywhere near as accurate as a Slava, for example. Like, you don't have to be perfect with your aim, you'll probably still hit your shells somewhere in the area of the enemy ship. However, it also means that salvos where you hit all of the shells, or most of the shells, are going to be somewhat rare, even when you get into close-ish ranges. But, of course, when you get really close, it's kind of difficult to miss. The barrels aren't that crooked. So, overall, my plan here in this match has been to go towards the enemy. However, I didn't wish to go on the western side because I noticed that my allies were sailing away from over there. The plan was to go somewhere close to encourage my allies to also not be far away, and then I would turn around, find myself a position to push in, and push into the enemy again. But I want to do it this way instead of straight up pushing immediately, because if I push straight up, I might not have allied support, whereas if I take some time to do it, I'm probably going to have allied support, and the enemy might be pushing themselves, which would make my push much easier and, I guess, safer. One thing to keep in mind though is that this is a CV match, and these are tier 10 aircraft carriers, which means that they can hurt the Pommern quite a lot. Right now, I am simply sitting in the middle to see where, there's a gap in the enemy's armor, so to say, to be able to push at some point. And right now, I can't see anything, but then again, we've only been 5 minutes into the battle. Although, perhaps they don't have as many ships in the middle-ish area. Although that is the most dangerous spot to push in, but that is an option. Right now though, I choose not to do that, because, well, it is a CV match, and CVs can very heavily punish a ship that is alone out of position. So instead I'm gonna head more towards where my Petropavlovsk is, because right now I'm next to a few other battleships, so we're gonna be mostly safe from the enemy doing something crazy. And if my Petropavlovsk comes along with me, we would still be more or less safe. When you're dealing with CVs, you do want to have at least one ally with you. Because when you have 2 sets of anti-air, they tend to shoot down a lot more planes, so that the enemy can only maybe strike you once. Also, there's a lion over there, who I might be able to hit with secondaries. Well, apparently I can. Over the island. I do have HE loaded because I expect the battleships to be bow on towards me, so I will be unable to punish them. Oh, Kagero actually put the smoke down as the Audacious planes are coming in. This is actually really useful, because the Audacious can't see through the smoke until I actually fire my guns. Which means that this Audacious is going to basically, she couldn't drop on me. Very nice. Although maybe she planned to drop on the Missouri anyway, but even then, she lost so many planes in this strike. I'm pretty sure all of her planes were lost here. I mean, I shot down 8 of them. There couldn't have been too many of them left, right? Anyway, the Lion's actually going down. So, if you look at the map now, on the western side, they only have that Yamato as far as we know, and perhaps an Odin will join her. But that's about it. I mean, the Edinburgh we can see in the corner of the screen for a moment. That's basically the other closest ship to the Yamato, at least as far as we know. And we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the enemy ships, and they only have 9 ships, which means that there is nobody there. Therefore, going and fighting that Yamato would be an excellent idea because she won't have any support. And thus I can utilize my secondaries to its fullest extent. Although I do have to still worry about the fact that Audacious might come along and try to ruin my day. But I do think I should be able to push into a Yamato fast enough that even if the Audacious comes and helps, the Yamato should still sink because, well, Pommern does have German battleship armor. It's basically a Friedrich der Grosse when it comes to the hull, as I mentioned many times already. This means that she has a, I think it's 60mm icebreaker at the front. Therefore, Yamato cannot citadel this ship from the front. And even if you angle, there's only a very tiny gap that the ship is possible to be citadeled from. And I think most players don't even know it exists. Landing shells on a moving target into that gap is even harder. And even if you do, you know, RNG is gonna drop like 1 shell into it at the most. And I still have 72k HP. So a push like this, while I might take a lot of damage, I should still be able to do it. And oh my, the Audacious actually tried to attack the Petropavlovsk instead of me. Okay, that's even better. Because now it means I still have my HP left also. Is that Yamato secondary spec? Because those secondaries seem awfully accurate. Like, that looks like manual secondaries. Anyway, Yamato's only 7 kilometers away. I do have torpedoes, but I do need to remember that we are talking about a Yamato. Yamato's torpedo belt is quite excellent. And there's only 4 of these torpedoes, and they only deal, what, 14k damage or 17k damage? It's not exactly amazing. I think we will have to sink the ship some other way. And HE is actually a pretty decent option because she sets fires. Well, it sets fires. 2 fires right there. And I bet these fires will actually deal more damage than the torpedoes. In fact, I'm gonna just launch torpedoes now. Because why not? I'll be able to likely land some of them. And hey, it might save me some time because if Yamato turns in, I might not have the possibility of angling enough anymore to show broadside to fire those torpedoes. I mean, right now, you saw, right? I took 0 damage from that Yamato salvo because it hit my main belt. But if I were to try to torp her, I would probably have to show more side. Also, sadly, I only hit 1 of the torpedoes and it did, like, no damage. So we're gonna try with AP. But sadly, I mess up. I fired too early. I should have waited slightly longer. Let's not ram the Yamato. That would be quite a shame right now. However, Yamato turret traverse is super slow, which means that she has no chance here. Like, my secondary should be able to just finish her off at this point. And I think I should mostly be worried about the Odin that's coming in, that does have torpedoes as well. Which means that she could punish me heavily. I'm surprised the Audacious isn't here, actually. You would think she would be engaging at the moment, but apparently not. Oh, Yamato could actually fire, but I was already angled. By the way, one thing I recommend, if you do a close pass like this, don't try to... Also, Odin is torpedoing right now. Don't try to turn after after you've done the pass, because you're gonna show the enemy broadside. If they turn as well, it ends up being on who can fire first. And whoever gets the first salvo ends up winning that fight. Also, goodbye Odin. Little sister, I guess, of the Pommern. Honestly, Odin feels slightly more lackluster now that we have the Pommern, because Pommern isn't exactly an amazing ship herself. I still think that Georgia is a better ship. However, Odin in comparison feels even worse, and she's only a tier lower. Also, I'm spotted by planes, that's kinda weird. I guess now the game's kinda over. But anyway, as I was saying, when you do a close pass, you want to keep somewhat straight after you do the pass, because most enemies are going to turn in, which means that they will fire their guns at some point. And if you are angled, they'll simply bounce off of your armor plate, and then you can just bring your own guns around, then you might want to turn, and you fire in response. Or you simply wait for a turret traverse to turn your rear turrets, so that you can fire at them. Basically, don't show your broadside after the turn. Oh, an audacious. Ooh. I think she's in trouble. I think she might have actually given up on the game, because she hasn't been very active recently. Look at those secondaries deal damage. Damn. Well, not quite as much as the main batteries. But the game's over, because they only have one destroyer left. So, yeah. Pretty nice game. I would say that matches like this is what you want in a Pommern, where you wait a little bit at the start and then you go in to try to fight a smaller section of the enemy rather than the whole team at once. And you can get matches like this, but I still maintain that I think Georgia is just a better ship. So if you have a choice between Georgia and Pommern, I would pick Georgia if you want a good ship. If you want a very fun ship, the choice can be between Pommern and Georgia. They're both fun, so it depends on what you prefer. Also, the other thing is, if the ships ever get removed, Georgia's probably gonna get removed first, so, you know, you might want to try to get it first. Also, 188k damage. Those secondaries actually did quite a lot of damage. 37k, I mean, it's acceptable. Actually, torpedoes did more, but hey, we're not counting, okay? But yeah, this was a fairly successful game. I've had a few others like this, and I've had some fairly high damage games. And I do find her more fun to play than a Friedrich der Grosse. But it's just, I think Georgia still ends up being better. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I would like to thank the patrons on Patreon. Thank you very much for your continued support, and I hope I'll see you guys next time.